and welcome. I'm Joshua Barnes and you're watching The World Report. Let's first take a look at our top stories. Following the US-Russia peace meeting in Saudi Arabia, US President Donald Trump says Ukraine could have made a deal with Russia to end the war. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has delayed his visit to Saudi Arabia until the 10th of March after saying it was a surprise his country wasn't invited to the talks. Hamas has proposed releasing all dead and alive hostages in exchange for an end to the war, as the group indicates it is ready for talks on stage 2 of the ceasefire deal. 6 living and the bodies of 4 dead hostages, including 2 children, could be freed in return for hundreds of Palestinian prisoners. Meanwhile, the bodies of 23 people have been discovered by Lebanese civil defence forces after the withdrawal of Israeli troops. IDF soldiers have remained in 5 outposts in southern Lebanon, close to the border with Israel. A judge has ruled that Elon Musk's Doge can continue accessing US federal government data as it looks at cutting spending. Trump and Musk held a joint interview stating they plan to restore the will of the people. US President Donald Trump and billionaire Elon Musk featured in their first joint interview since the election victory. During the interview with Fox News, Trump praised Musk as his enforcer-in-chief. On the other hand, the White House clarified that Elon Musk is a senior advisor and not part of any government department. Here is the full story.
US President Donald Trump and billionaire Elon Musk featured in their first joint interview since the election. During the interview with Fox News, Trump praised Musk as his enforcer-in-chief for executing his executive orders after returning to office. Elon Musk, Trump's top donor in the 2024 campaign, was appointed to lead the new Department of Government Efficiency, aiming to tackle waste in federal spending. Musk stated its main role is ensuring presidential executive orders are carried out.
Those executive orders, I sign them, and now they get passed on to him and his group and other people, and they're all getting done. We're getting them done.
The interviews come hours after Trump signed an executive order to strengthen White House control over federal regulatory agencies. The order, which may face legal challenges, asserts that executive power should be overseen by the elected president for accountability. Musk, whose role is often questioned, defended himself, stating he is helping implement Trump's agenda, not acting as president, and emphasized that Trump represents the people's will.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't asked the president for anything ever.
And if it comes up, how will you handle it?
Well,
He won't be involved.
yeah, I'll recuse myself if it is.
If there's a conflict, he won't be involved.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't want that, and he won't want it.
On the other hand, the White House on Monday clarified that Elon Musk is a senior advisor, not part of the Department of Government Efficiency. This comes at a time when the Trump administration is facing a lawsuit from Democratic states claiming Musk holds excessive power without being elected or confirmed by the Senate. Bureau Report, NewsX.
We'll stay in North America for more of the latest news updates there. In a significant legal decision, a US judge has denied a request to halt President Trump's push to reduce the size of federal workforce. A district judge ruled against 14 states that sought a restraining order to stop the efforts of the Department of Government Efficiency. Led by Elon Musk, the decisions of Doge have created some controversy. The states have argued that Doge lacked the authority to fire federal workers or access sensitive data. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump has signed an executive order increasing access to IVF. The order gives his advisors 90 days to protect IVF access and reduce insurance costs. Speaking to the press, the president reiterated his stance on the importance of family formation. The order risks backlash from conservative right. Rapper A$AP Rocky has been found not guilty on 2 counts of felony assault. Rocky was charged with shooting a semi-automatic weapon during a confrontation in 2021. This conclusion came out of his trial, which took place in Los Angeles. The rapper could have faced more than 2 decades in prison had he been found guilty. The CIA has reportedly launched special drones over Mexico. The covert operations using MQ-19 drones will spy on drug cartels in Mexico and may be used for armed operations. They can also be fitted with payloads to carry out specific attacks. Such drones are frequently employed by the US to target alleged terrorists in the Middle East and Africa. Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly has supposedly warned European leaders of President Trump. This comes as she concluded her recent European tour. Coming back to Canada, the minister stated that she provided a wake-up call to the EU leaders about the economic and political threats posed by Trump. Joly also stated that the reason Europe has not strongly spoken against Trump is because they have issues of their own. Amid the ongoing peace talks regarding the Russia-Ukraine war, US President Donald Trump has taken aim at Ukraine. He blamed President Zelensky for not making a deal with Russia earlier. Meanwhile, European leaders continue to gather support for Ukraine. What are the other developments? Let's find out.
As Saudi hosted US and Russian officials for a peace deal amid the ongoing war, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has expressed his disappointment.
Будь ласка, можете обговорювати що завгодно, але не можна приймати рішення без України, як завершити війну в Україні. Ті чи інші умови. І нас не запрошували на цю зустріч, російсько-американську зустріч в Саудівській Аравії. Для нас це було сюрпризом, я думаю, так, як і для багатьох.
Responding to his comments, US President Donald Trump counter-blamed Ukraine.
And I'm very disappointed. I hear that, they're upset about not having a seat. Well, they've had a seat for 3 years and a long time before that. This could have been settled very easily. Just a half-baked negotiator could have settled this years ago.
In Riyadh, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and US Secretary of State Marco Rubio agreed to appoint teams to start negotiating the end of the war. Lavrov said his country would not accept peacekeeping forces from NATO countries in Ukraine under any peace deal. This came as a proposal from the meeting of the European members of NATO for supporting Ukraine. In response, France is set to host a second summit on February 19th to continue discussions of security guarantees for Ukraine. In partnership with the British, France is also ready to consider sending experts or even a limited number of troops beyond the Ukrainian front line. When asked about the European support for Ukraine, Trump said,
If they want to do that, that's great. I'm all for it. If they want to do that, I think that'd be fine.
With such developments, can the peace talks, which President Trump is more confident about, put an end to the war raging for over 2 years? Bureau Report, NewsX.
We'll now take a look at the latest updates from across Europe. The British Army says they are ready to deploy troops to Ukraine if it's requested by the Ukrainian government. This week, 2,500 British soldiers from the 1st Division are participating in a major NATO exercise in Romania, which is just 16 miles from the Ukrainian border. Brigadier Andy Watson, who commands Britain's contribution to the NATO exercise, confirmed that his brigade is fully prepared to deploy if given orders. Discussions about sending troops to Ukraine are currently underway. European leaders have been reacting to the new US stance under President Trump, which includes a willingness to negotiate with Russia over the Ukraine conflict. This shift has led to calls for Europe to boost its defence spending and consider sending troops to Ukraine. Emergency talks led by French President Macron aimed to present unity, but tensions emerged as German Chancellor Olaf Scholz expressed frustration over calls for troop deployment. The EU has planned to crack down on food imports that don't meet its standards as part of a new agricultural policy. The move comes after months of farmer protests over unfair competition and regulatory burdens. The European Commission aims to align production standards for imported goods, particularly targeting hazardous pesticides. While the policy aims to reduce tensions, it could spark trade conflicts with US crops like soybeans. The Vatican reports say that Pope Francis has been diagnosed with pneumonia in both lungs after suffering from a respiratory infection for over a week. His condition remains complex and it requires additional treatment. The Pope, who has a history of lung issues, has cancelled all public events. He thanked well-wishers and asked for prayers as doctors adjusted his treatment. Life expectancy growth across Europe is stalling as England experienced the sharpest slowdown from 1990 to 2011. Life expectancy rose by 0.23 years annually, but this dropped to just 0.15 years between 2011 and 2019. Experts blame poor diets, inactivity and rising obesity for the decline. Meanwhile, England saw the largest fall with a 0.18-year drop in life expectancy improvements. Israeli forces withdrew from border villages in southern Lebanon under a US-brokered ceasefire, but have remained in 5 strategic positions inside Lebanon. Lebanese civil defense discovered 23 bodies after Israel partially withdrew from all other areas in its southern towns. Here is more on this development.
Lebanon's civil defense said they recovered 23 bodies from its southern towns after Israeli forces withdrew under ceasefire agreement. Rescue teams working with the Lebanese army are continuing search operations in areas affected by Israeli attacks. Reportedly, bodies have been recovered from the town of Mais El Jabal, Markaba, Kefar Kela and Odaise, with identification efforts underway. An injured person from Mais El Jabal was transported to hospital after being shot by Israeli forces. Israel remains stationed at 5 border points inside Lebanon, despite delays in full withdrawal. Since the ceasefire, Israel has violated the agreement nearly numerous times, killing at least 78 people and injuring 274. Bureau Report, NewsX.
We'll now take a look at the latest updates from across the Indo-Pacific region. A man has been sentenced to 10 years in prison after being found guilty for attempting to kill Japan's ex-Prime Minister, Fumio Kishida. 25-year-old Ryuji Kimura threw a pipe bomb at a vehicle carrying Kishida in 2023. The former PM was unharmed in the attack. Judge Keiko Fukushima said that the sense of anxiety caused to society by targeting the former Prime Minister was significant. 7 bus passengers have been shot by gunmen in southwest Pakistan. The victims were identified as people from Punjab. Officials say the attackers burst the tyres of a bus that was travelling through Balochistan before boarding the bus. The attackers then demanded to see the ID cards of each passenger. Those who were from Punjab were taken off by the terrorists and killed. Vietnam's parliament has approved plans for an $8 billion rail project. A link will be made from Vietnam's largest northern port city, Haiphong, to China's border. The aim is to boost trade between the two countries. The new rail project would cross Vietnam's key manufacturing hubs, which is home to international companies including Samsung, Foxconn and Pegatron. The track is set to be around 390 kilometres long. Pakistan wants to remove all Afghan refugees from the country, according to the country's embassy. They say that Afghan nationals have been subjected to arrests from police. The Afghan embassy stated that officials from Pakistan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs confirmed a definitive plan to deport all Afghan refugees from the country soon. This follows Pakistan's threat to deport Afghans living in the country illegally. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese rejected claims that his government was slow to denounce Islamophobia. This followed the alleged assault of 2 Muslim women at a Melbourne shopping centre. Albanese told reporters that any attack on a person based on their religion is reprehensible. The Australian PM also announced the appointment of a special envoy on Islamophobia. As an important step forward, he emphasised his commitment to celebrating diversity and respecting people regardless of their faith. More than 150 false killer whales were caught stranded on a remote beach in Australia's island state of Tasmania. Marine experts have given up hope of rescuing the whales. Experts, including veterinarians, were at the scene for the rescue attempt. The incident controller reported that the team had been out in the water but were unable to refloat the whales because of unfavourable ocean conditions. Hamas announced the release of 6 Israeli hostages on Saturday, including 2 long-held captives, Avera Mengistu and Hisham al-Sayed. The release is part of the ongoing ceasefire deal. The bodies of 4 hostages will also be handed over to Israel on Thursday. This marks a significant step as negotiations continue towards the second phase of the deal.
According to militant group leader Khalil al-Hayya, Hamas announced the handover of the bodies of 4 Israeli hostages with 6 living captives set for release on Saturday.
فقد قررت الحركة والمقاومة ما يلي: أولاً تسليم عدد 4 من جثامين أسرى الاحتلال يوم الخميس 20 فبراير الجاري، على أن يفرج العدو يوم السبت القادم 22 فبراير عمن يقابلهم من أسرانا حسب الاتفاق. ثانياً الإفراج يوم السبت المقبل 22 من فبراير الجاري عمن تبقى من أسرى الاحتلال الأحياء المتفق على إطلاق سراحهم في المرحلة الأولى، وعددهم 6، على أن يفرج العدو عمن يقابلهم من أسرانا حسب الاتفاق.
Initially, only 3 hostages were expected to be freed, but Hamas has not provided an explanation for this change in plans. Under the first phase of the ceasefire deal, 33 hostages were set to be released, and so far, 19 have been freed, while Israel has confirmed 8 hostages are dead. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu confirmed the upcoming release of the 6 living hostages, marking the final hostages to be freed under this phase of the agreement. The 6 hostages being released on Saturday include 2 Israelis, Avera Mengistu and Hisham al-Sayed, who have been held by Hamas for over a decade. Hamas also stated that 4 bodies, including members of the Bibas family, will be handed over on Thursday, with deep concerns from Israel over their condition. The first phase of the ceasefire, which has paused deadly fighting and allowed aid to flow into Gaza, sets the stage for the more challenging second phase, where further negotiations will occur. Bureau Report, NewsX.
Now for the latest from across the world of business. Japanese trading house Mitsui & Co. announced that it would acquire a 40% stake in the Rio Tinto-operated Rhodes Ridge iron ore project in Western Australia. It will cost over $5.3 billion. This is to increase its long-term earning base. Mitsui's 40% stake is projected to yield 16 million tonnes of iron ore a year. This will rise to more than 40 million tonnes annually upon further expansion. Dutch multinational conglomerate Philips posted a net loss of €698 million for 2024. It posted a €463 million loss the year before. The conglomerate has been suffering financially over the past couple of years. The CEO listed the decline in demand from China as one reason for the losses. US President Donald Trump says he intends to impose tariffs on automobiles with similar duties on semiconductors and pharmaceutical imports. Trump has long complained about the treatment meted out to US automotive exports in foreign markets. Trump also announced that he would put 25% or higher tariffs on pharmaceuticals and semiconductors. Spanish banking behemoth Banco Santander will be investing $2 billion in Mexico. This will be over a period of 3 years. After a meeting with Santander CEO Ana Botín, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum disclosed the investment sum. Botín highlighted that Mexico has great growth potential, saying that the company wants to invest in it heavily despite potential trade tensions with the US. Elon Musk's company X is in talks to raise money from investors at a value of $44 billion. Musk bought the platform for the same price back in 2022. However, since then, X valuation has tanked. Reportedly, talks for the new financing round are still ongoing. In updates from the Democratic Republic of Congo, Burundi are pulling out their forces following the fall of Bukavu. These soldiers had been fighting the Rwandan-backed M23 rebels. Meanwhile, the rebels appear to be heading towards a third major city in eastern Congo. Let's look out for more in this report.
Burundi is withdrawing its forces from the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, where they had been fighting against M23 rebels in a further blow to Congo's army as it struggles to halt a rebel advance. A Burundian military spokesman called the ongoing pullout fake and said that his country's soldiers were continuing to execute their missions in their areas of responsibility in Congo. A Burundian army officer confirmed movements which were also described by UN sources and an African diplomat saying that several trucks filled with Burundian military arrived in the country.
We are expressing grave concern, that is what our leaders did, on the situation in Eastern DRC, calling for immediate withdrawal of M23 and their supporters from all occupied towns and cities, including Goma Airport.
Burundian soldiers fought alongside the Congolese to try to defend Kavumu, home to the airport that services Bukavu, the capital of South Kivu province, which fell over the weekend. It was their most significant prize since they seized Goma, the biggest city in eastern Congo, in late January. The pullout came after the United Nations Human Rights Office accused M23 rebels of executing children in eastern Congo during their advance.
The Rwanda-backed M23 advance to South Kivu has plunged the region into a complex security and humanitarian crisis, provoking population displacement. Our office has confirmed cases of summary execution of children by M23 after they entered the city of Bukavu last week. We're also aware that children were in possession of weapons.
Meanwhile, frightened residents are saying that Rwanda-backed rebels appear to be heading toward a third major city in eastern Congo. Burundi has had soldiers in eastern Congo for years, initially to hunt down Burundian rebels there, but more recently to aid in the fight against M23. A local official and an army colonel have said that fighting between rebels and the Congolese army also took place on Tuesday in Lubero territory, north of Goma. Congo President Felix Tshisekedi met his Angolan counterpart João Lourenço in Luanda, the Angolan capital, to discuss the accelerated deterioration of the security situation in eastern Congo. Bureau Report, NewsX.
Now for the latest from across South America. Brazil's Attorney General has formally charged former President Jair Bolsonaro and 33 others over an alleged coup attempt. The charges, which include armed criminal organizations, are based on evidence which suggests that Bolsonaro led a coordinated effort to prevent Luis Silva from taking over office. Bolsonaro denies the allegations, calling them unfounded and part of a persecution campaign. An Argentine appeal court has upheld the dismissal of aggravated rape charges against French rugby players Hugo Araujo and Oscar Jegu. The players, who always denied wrongdoing, were under investigation for the alleged incident in Mendoza province in July. Their French lawyer declared the case as one that showed the players' innocence. Honduran President Castro announced that the country will maintain its extradition treaty with the United States. The treaty is about handing over suspected drug traffickers, reversing an earlier decision to scrap it. The agreement, which had sparked diplomatic tensions, is seen as crucial in addressing drug trafficking linked to the narco state. Castro emphasized safeguards to protect the integrity of Honduras's armed forces. A 5.6 magnitude earthquake struck 111 kilometers southwest of Taltal in northern Chile. The quake, with a depth of 10 kilometers, was reported by the US Geology Survey. Chile's National Seismological Center measured it at a magnitude of 5.5, located 15 kilometers northwest of Chañaral. Authorities confirmed that the quake did not trigger conditions for a tsunami. An International Atomic Energy Agency team has reviewed Bolivia's first nuclear research reactor, RB1, under construction by the Agency for Nuclear Energy in Bolivia. The reactor, located in El Alto, will be the highest nuclear reactor in the world once operational in 2025. The IAEA mission provided key recommendations for ABEN to ensure safety throughout the commissioning process. Colombia's Choco department faced a 3-day armed strike by the National Liberation Army has shut down businesses and halted public transport. It is now restricting movement and commercial activity. The strike comes amid rising violence in rural areas, with 1,600 people displaced in the past 2 weeks. The ELMS cited alleged alliances between the state, military and paramilitary groups for their actions. Armed strikes often lead to school closures, and civilians defying orders face execution threats. That is all for now, but we'll be back very soon with your latest international news.